Donnie and Dolly, the team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Monday, and all of our guests today are brought to you by Basant Motors. Basant is celebrating their 30th anniversary by giving away their annual scholarship. 30 grand in scholarships will be awarded. More information at basantmotors.com/scholarship. Our thanks to Basant Motors and our title sponsor, Able Auctions, as we bring in Pittsburgh Penguins president of hockey operations, a job he took in February, Brian Burke. Long time no talk to. Brian, how are you, sir?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Very well, very well. What have you learned about the Penguins in the city of Pittsburgh that maybe you didn't know before you took the job?
Oh, good question. Well, I mean, it was a weird year because we went right into the bubble. Like, I came here on a Sunday, I want to think, and I drove here in a blizzard, and I went in and did my COVID testing, and then had to quarantine. I'd already COVID tested in Toronto. And then we went right into the schedule. So we played 2 games at a time. We played 2 games and then come home and then played 2 games and travel. And so it was a different year. So I didn't get to go anywhere. I didn't get to go to any restaurants or bars. But great city, great people, like great sports town, great owners. I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
Hey, Brian, I heard you say in another outlet that you feel the Penguins practice better than any team in the National Hockey League. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. Just watching guys starting up today, our practices are very high tempo and very difficult and very involved. Like, there's real high levels of. It's not like you pass the puck once and you hand the puck off to get it back and then go take a shot. It's like today, guys are stick handling around obstacles, not just regular sticks, but like popping pucks over obstacles, making a pass, making a play back. 3 or 4 players involved in each drill at a time. So very high technical skill, very high difficulty level, very high IQ, and very high tempo. So it's really impressive. It's Mike Sullivan is the drill master, and then Sid drives the whole thing. So it's pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, you just mentioned Sidney Crosby. Brian, what can you tell us about his health issues, his wrist issues?
Well, he's battled this. He's had a wrist issue that goes back several years. He's battled it. He's had treatment for it before. This guy's a warrior. He was working with we've got a number of doctors involved as well. He's working with the issue, and then one day it would feel good, next day it'd say it's really sore. So they came up with a collaborative approach so that if it doesn't improve to this point, by this point, we're going to go ahead and do surgery. So they've done that. He's done it in conjunction with his own body, which is a guy that's been around as long as he has a pretty good sense of his own healing levels and everything else. And, again, with a team of medical professionals. So we think he got the best advice he could get and the best treatment he could get. Unfortunately, at some point, the doctors turned to you and said it's time to operate.
Hey, Brian, you've been in this market, did tons of big deals. Right now, Pettersson and Hughes are not done. These kids are getting big money after their entry-level deals, Brian. What can you talk about all around the league? These young kids getting big bucks. They're difficult deals to do?
Well, I think first off, obviously I work for the Pittsburgh Penguins, so I'm not going to offer contractual advice on players that play for Vancouver. But I will tell you, the options are for a team, forget the players you named, but the options are for a team is you've either got to commit to long-term money and with compliant with your cap situation, or you've got to do shorter-term bridge deals. So, like, to me, it's pretty simple. You've got a pie that's pretty finite. It's not a case of where you could divide the pie up much more gradually than you can or much more differently than you can. So they're going to be faced with options, which are you're going to do a shorter bridge deal, shorter AAV, or you're going to, and again, not talking about any particular team, or you're going to do a longer-term deal that might, eat up your cap situation. So, look, there's a lot of people who have had to make these decisions in cap worlds, and they've all managed to find a way to do it. So I'm comfortable these teams that have these issues will be able to figure it out.
You mentioned the flat cap, Brian. When is it going to come a time when the cap goes up? As an executive in the National Hockey League, are you concerned that it might be flat for a couple more years?
I'm convinced it's going to be flat for a couple more years. I think the NHL has some tools where they can raise the cap even if the revenue targets aren't met. I think they have the ability to raise the cap to a certain level, and I'm told that's been considered, and we would support the league whatever they do. So it might go up slightly, but no, my information is it's going to be a flat cap for a number of years, and that's we're stuck with that. So I don't see it going up much in the next couple of years for sure.
Talking with Brian Burke. Hey, Brian, Tristan Jarry's from this area. Are you a believer in him in between the pipes for your hockey team?
Absolutely. I mean, Tristan Jarry, people look back at last year and say, oh, the Islanders' goaltending wasn't good enough. And it was not. But Tristan Jarry was a star for us. Like, if you look at our stats down the second half of the year, from when we got here in February to when we finished, he was one of the best goalies in the league. And we won a division. And the only reason we won the division was because of Tristan Jarry. So my belief is, if you look at Carey Price, if you look at the Flower, these are guys, if you look at their first 1 or 2 playoff years, they often struggled because there's no other way to get that experience. Like, you can't say to a kid, look, we're going to let you watch the playoffs this year. We're going to let you back up, but we're not going to start you. We're going to let you learn, and then we'll throw you in there. You got to play. And he had some tough nights. He also played some really good hockey. I believe in this guy. I believe in him. I think he's big. He's athletic. He's a quality person, and he's got good goaltending skills. I'm not worried about that position at all.
You had a couple of go-rounds with the Canucks, as everyone knows. Brian, you drafted the Sedins. How do you think they're going to do as NHL executives?
Well, I only played for the Twins. The Twins only played for me for a couple of years.
Okay.
And I think in the combined time I had them for 3 years or wherever I had them, they might have said 5 words. So to me, the biggest question is, who's going to talk for these two guys? Like I laugh about this, but I remember talking to Danny Sedin, and I asked him, I said, how's your summer? And, oh, good. And I said, how's your family? Good. How was fishing this summer? Apparently we went salmon fishing in Sweden, and good. And I said, Danny, I'm going to run out of questions here. you gotta do a little better than this. So they're real quiet. They're wonderful people, and they're very smart. They're really smart people and wonderful human beings. They'll be fine. They'll be an addition. They'll add to that staff no matter what role they give them to do.
Yeah, they've come a long way, trust me. Hey, Brian, I think I read this somewhere, but how close did you come, as we go back in time here, if you don't mind, but how close did you come to trading away your pick back in '99, that Sedin draft?
Oh, I know what you're talking. You're talking about back after the World Juniors in Winnipeg. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that year the draft was 98-99 mm-hmm. was in Winnipeg, and it's the worst first round in the history of the National Hockey League. So we're at the World Juniors in Winnipeg. It was bitterly cold, and they were terrible. And so I told our players, I said, look, I'm trading this pick. And fortunately, Thomas Gradin was our chief scout, and Thomas Gradin said, no, we're going to pick. And you've got to get the second one. You've got to get both of them. I'm like, how am I supposed to do that? So it was the World Championships in Oslo. That's where we first saw these people. Well, not we. Where I first saw this genius these kids had, because up until then I was going to trade the pick, but that was Thomas Gradin saw that right away. He said, we got to get these two guys. So I can't take any credit for Thomas Gradin or the Twins until they got here for the World Championships. But we didn't come that close once the World Championships came along.
Let's go back in time a little bit here as well, Brian, if you don't mind. I tweeted this out yesterday, but I really believe that when you first joined the Canucks back in the mid-'80s, along with Pat and Bob McCammon, the team was at a real low. And the thing that I really remember that I think really galvanized your team's relationship with this community were the spots that you did, the guest appearances you did with Dan Russell on Sports Talk. They were must-listen-to radio, really important, I think, to the community and to the hockey team. What are your memories of that time with Dan?
Well, that goes back really the first week I started with the Canucks. So this would have been in '87, and I did an interview with Dan Russell, and he sent a limo to pick me up. I was staying at the what's that place on in Burnaby? We stayed at the hotel in Burnaby there for
The Villa?
right off the highway.
The Villa? Yeah.
The Sheridan Villa in Burnaby. Really, and they were nice. We stayed there for a long time. They were wonderful people. I think it's gone now. But anyway.
Still there.
They sent a limo, and I got in the front seat of the limo. I didn't know you were supposed to ride in the back seat. So we did the interview, and then afterwards Dan Russell said, would you be interested in doing a full-time gig? So I said, well, it's up to Pat, not me. So I asked Pat Quinn, and Pat was a really progressive guy. Like, he was a genius. And he was like, look, we would be the only team in professional sports that has an open switchboard to deal with our team and only team in pro sports, not just the NHL. But Pat said, look, you're going to hate this. We're not going to be that good for a year or two. You're going to hate this job. People are going to be really rude and mean. This is before social media, before Vancouver turned into a cesspool on social media. But there were, Pat was really realistic about it. He was like, you're giving us a platform. And you're right. Going back, it was a huge thing. Like I remember, now I read this. I don't know if it's true. Dan would know. But we used to do on Wednesday, we had the Canucks Weekly Update.
Yep.
And we would do, say, 10,000 listeners. And then the weekend, Wednesday, I want to say it was when we had we would do 25,000 listeners. Mm-hmm. And there was a switchboard that had, I want to say, 8 lines on it. And Dan would never tell people if we were on at 8 or at 9, or sorry, at 10 or 11. Mm-hmm. So he would never tell people, well, Brian's starting the Canucks Weekly Update at 11. So those phone lines would be jammed some nights from 10 o'clock at night, holding a line, saying, and from far away. Some of these people are calling from Saskatchewan and places and holding the line for an hour and a half before they took calls. So it was a big deal. It was a really important part of our development as a franchise.
Well said. Did you enjoy the experience of, there was a lot about Vancouver in it, about drafting the Sedins and dealing with Pavel Bure. Did you enjoy the experience of writing a book, Burke's Law?
Yeah, I did. Stephen Brunt actually deserves more credit than I do, but this all started when the Flames, my last year in Calgary, the late, great Ken King called me in and said, look, we're probably going to make it, well, not probably, we're going to make a change at the end of the season. And that was the deal they had made with me right from the get-go. So that was in late February, and we played in the playoffs that year. So we weren't done until April sometime. And I had all that time without no longer being the GM kind of working as much. So I started doing an outline and worked through and did the book. But it was the good thing about writing a book is you know right away if it's any good or not. And mine sold very well, so people liked it, which I was grateful for. But I also, Stephen Brunt was the difference maker in my mind in writing a good book or just writing stories that lead up to a book. This was more, how do you write a book? And he did that.
Okay, I got to throw one more in here, Brian, if you don't mind. Vasily Podkolzin is in Vancouver right now getting ready for his first NHL season. He won't have a Russian teammate on the Vancouver roster. Is that a big concern?
No. I mean, look, I don't know this kid other than watching a lot of video and talking to a lot of people. He's a legit NHL player right away. And like Jim Bennings had great patience bringing this guy along. I think they're really going to like this guy. And my understanding is that, he played in a top league in Russia. Those guys all work on their English before they get there. I bet you he's fine without a Russian teammate.
Brian, we could go on and on. Thanks so much for this. Congrats on the new gig. Actually, it's not that new anymore, but congrats. All the best to you and the Penguins.
Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Brian Burke, president of hockey operations for the Pittsburgh Penguins.